What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. My name is Ramon, and this is Dad's podcast project. It has been a minute since I've been back on the podcast. I've been pretty busy with finals as of late, and I feel like it was like this maybe last semester or the semester prior to this. It's just, it always comes down to just being really busy during finals, and I just don't have the time that I would like to dedicate to recording an episode. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. That's why there was no episode as of last Monday, but that's why you're listening to one now. So my final is Wednesday, and I requested off from work so that I can take the time that's needed to ensure that I've brushed up on everything that I need to, and that I've hopefully got all the notes, or that I've just prepared myself for the final, essentially. Other than that, I mean, just life has been busy at home with the kids. We took our typical drive, our weekend drive out, staying in the car, of course, but just getting out of the house nonetheless. And I don't know, it's really starting to wear on us, this whole sheltering in place. And now we're here yet again with a second round of shutdown. The gym has recently announced that they're going to be closing in our area. Not only that, but places of business that had opened their doors to serve food indoors, even with modified seating, they're no longer going to be open like that. I think that you can still sit outside. Don't quote me on that, but it's just, there's a lot that has been changing and has been really touch and go with just businesses in general, especially here in the area where we live. I know a lot of people in the hair cutting business, so barbers and beauticians, even makeup artists, they're all being affected by this, having to not only take the time to open their businesses back up and follow the guidelines that have been set in place by our local government, but now they have to close yet again. So we were kind of wondering, like, how are people going to recover from something like this? Are some of these businesses just not going to come back at all? Because that's someone's livelihood. That is someone who took the time and had a drive or a vision or was passionate about something, and they went out and started out on their own. A lot of you might not know, but I used to do wedding photography, and it's not that I stopped doing wedding photography because of the pandemic, but it was sort of like just the timing was kind of the same with this. So I had done wedding photography for a couple years, and things were starting to slow down. I was starting to just focus more on work and getting back into school, and I didn't have the time that I did in the beginning to do weddings. So I stopped booking them. But I do know a lot of people who still, like, that is their bread and butter. They're full-time photographers. And so when you have something like social distancing in place, where you have something that you have to close your business up because of something like this, how are some of these people able to make it? I mean, this is their business. This is the way that they bring in their income. And I mean, it's got to be tough. I try to support local businesses as much as possible, especially during times like this. But with all of these individuals having to close their doors, I mean, it's got to be really tough. My brother, he was going to take a trip out here to come visit, and unfortunately, because of these closures, things had to change. We thought, okay, things are going to open up. Maybe he'll be able to come out and we can visit and spend some time, but that's just not the case. So it's been rough. The kids definitely feel it more so as the days go on. our son, he asks, can we do this when the germs are gone? Can we do that when the germs are gone? And I don't even know when they're going to go away. We hope for a vaccine. We hope for something rather than what the current state of things is. But we have been keeping busy here at the house. We've been watching a lot of internet, like streaming services, Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon, which my uncle, he wanted to like borrow one of our Apple TVs so he can watch that movie with Tom Hanks on Apple TV Plus or whatever their streaming service is called. So we went ahead and we let him use it. And I mean, if he gets it up and running, then just let him keep it. But it was one of those things that we didn't even think to try out this service. So when he mentioned it, we decided, okay, well, let's try this. Let's check out this free trial real quick and see what shows they have. And that Jason Momoa show titled C, I totally forgot about that one. That one just it didn't go under the radar. Like I remember it, but it wasn't until like we downloaded we started the subscription, the free trial, that I took the time to actually watch the first episode. And it was pretty cool. I mean, it's just like gorgeous cinematography. The story of people being blind, I thought was kind of interesting. Like, how are they gonna make something like this work? There were some questionable moments in the episode, but I mean, this isn't a review on the show or anything, just kind of an update as to what we got going on. But because our free trial's up tomorrow, I only got to see the first episode, so I'm not even sure how it's going to end. It definitely wasn't worth keeping the trial going. We're definitely going to let it lapse. But other shows that we were catching up on were one that's really interesting that I highly recommend to everybody is it's called like Family in Pieces, I think, and it's on Amazon Prime. And Tom Hanks' son, he's in it. He's the only actor whom I know who his father is, I guess you can say. But they're like the mother and the father in the show. They look very familiar to me. And then everybody else is like, I don't even know who these people are. But the show is hilarious. Like, my wife and I are literally laughing in the living room while we're watching this thing. It's been a while since we've caught a show that is that entertaining. And I think it's because it's centralized around like families and some of the idiosyncrasies that exist within every family's dynamic. Tom Hanks, his son, is portrayed in the show as being a new father. So he and his wife, it goes through some of the angsts and hiccups that you find yourself going through as a new parent. Whether it's baby proofing the house, who's on call for the baby when they wake up in the middle of the night. All of the above has been covered so far in each of these episodes, and my wife and I are just getting a kick out of it because it's silly, but there's a truth to it because we find ourselves going through these things ourselves. One scene in particular, I won't be giving any like real spoilers for the show or anything like that, but one scene in particular is when the baby is crying and the mom, she wakes up and is like, please close your eyes. Please just close your eyes. And their baby doesn't. She's like, damn. So she goes ahead and holds the monitor directly over her husband's face so that he'll wake up. My wife is just cracking up at this because she said, she's done this to me a couple times. And there have been a couple days where I've been awoke by the children crying in the monitor, which so happens to be right next to my head. So it's not too far from the truth, at least, with this show. Really great show. Highly recommend it. You guys should definitely give it a watch if you're looking for something to stream during this time. Other things is just, well, we're finishing up this semester with school. I'm going to have about 3 weeks or so off, or maybe 2 weekends, 2 weeks off until I get into the crux of my major. So I'll be taking my computer science course once again, as well as I believe another math. My major is in, I think it's computer science, but it's very math heavy. I think I've taken the last class, which is this semester, or this, what is it, fall semester? Spring? Summer? I don't know. So the class that I'm taking now is economics, which I don't really care much for economics. For anybody out there who is an econ fan, I am not. I get how it can relate, and I get why it's an elective, or not an elective. I get why it is a prerequisite, but I just don't. I do not enjoy this class whatsoever. I am so happy that the final is this Wednesday, and that I'll be done with it. But getting back into computer science and coding, that is what I'm excited about. I even thought about like firing up the old IntelliJ, which is the coding software of choice for this instructor, and we're doing Java and just going ahead and brushing up on some of the things that I had done last semester so that I can go into it fresh. But my wife said, just finish out this semester, finish out this last final, and then go ahead and whatever you want to do after that, go ahead and do it. But just, we really got to focus on what we've got going on right now. Because with school and with family life and with work, there's been a lot that's been just really, really busy. I believe I mentioned this before, but at work, I'm now doing like some machine programming, and it's not necessarily the same. For anybody out there who might not know the difference, coding for CNC machines is much simpler in regards to the code and what you can do. It's very basic. It's X, Y, and Z axis, unless you have multi-axis machines, which we'll not get into. But if you have 3 axes, it's really just basic algebra and the coordinate system. So how far are you traveling in X? How far are you traveling in Y? And then Z is obviously your up and down travel or your depth of cut. And you set offsets or work offsets with a G54, which pretty much creates your nodal point for anybody who remembers Algebra 2, which is your 0 point. That's your X, Y, and Z 0. So coding, so long as you have a 0 point and you have a print that tells you how far each hole location is or each feature on the part is, you can code a part by hand. Where it gets a little more intricate is when you're starting to talk about certain things like, I don't know, chip thinning or dynamic tool paths. All these things are more software based. So when you have an understanding, at least of the basics, and then you jump into the software, then it kind of opens up a whole new way of thinking when it comes to approaching machining a part. And so the computer science courses really helped me like exponentially in understanding the actual written code and how to manipulate it and how to even utilize some like logic functions. So the machines that we primarily use at work are Haas machines, and the logic that they use is very basic. So it's if then, or it's a lot of if statements. So if this, do that. And you can create macros and variables and pretty much tell the machine, like, if, I don't know, for example, like if you have a tool offset that needs to be a certain length, you can have this if statement come in right before the tool does any machining and just check it. Say, if the tool meets this requirement, continue. If it does not, stop, set an alarm, and let the operator know, hey, something doesn't add up here. Maybe double check what you're doing. So coding and my CS courses has helped me implement that a lot more into the code at work. And then, I don't know, just standard machining has helped me understand the coding software, which there's plenty of softwares out there. Free softwares, for example, would be like Fusion 360 by Autodesk. The software of choice that I have been learning on is Mastercam. Mastercam 2020, I believe. So it's the latest version. I've been seeing some ads for like some of the newest features that are coming along with version 2021, but I don't know if the upgrade is really necessary. There are a lot of machine shops that still utilize older versions of Mastercam because, well, they don't really need the extra features. The extra features might just be quality of life features, or I don't know, things for 5-axis machining, and maybe they don't need 5-axis tool paths. So that's been what's been going on with work. It has been keeping me extremely busy, to say the least, which is a good thing. I definitely enjoy the challenge of learning and continuing to grow mentally, because I think physically at a certain point we get whatever the job is that we're doing, whether it's food service or it is labor type job, manufacturing, anything. You get the mind muscle memory of whatever it is that you're doing, and the challenge curve or the learning and growth curve, I feel tends to taper off when it comes to whatever you physically have to do for your job. However, when it comes to what you can grow into mentally for your job, and this is even included in things like food service, and I would say manufacturing, and even labor jobs, because just to give an example, as a machinist, loading parts, unloading parts, setup times for setting up new parts, that's all labor. That's all physical. You can get the mind muscle memory down, and you can start working very efficiently, and there's the challenge tapers. However, when you start thinking like, how can I refine the program that I'm doing? Is there a way I can save a minute per part? Over 30 parts, I've saved a half an hour off the job. Is there a way that I can run this machine and possibly run a second machine at the same time? Like, how can I maximize my time? Those are more mental challenges, I think, because you have to theory craft, you have to sit and really ask the question, what is really worth the time and what is like an overexertion of time? And for me, I think it just comes kind of second nature, because starting out early in my work career, if I would always hear the sayings like, why you leaning when you can be cleaning? Like, pretty much like, don't stand around. If someone sees you standing, you're not being productive. There's something you could be doing. And so maybe it's an old way of thinking. Maybe it's just the people that I started working with at the time that I started working, but that kind of was ingrained within me. And so I have a very hard time just kind of threading the needle, so to speak, when it comes to work. I have to be doing something. I have a hard time just standing idle. So even when machining, or even when like welding, for example, I always feel like, well, I've got to do something. Welding is a little simpler because, I mean, once your hood's down and you're laying a bead, clearly you're doing something. When you're cleaning up your weld and you're grinding, you're doing something. You can physically see that you are doing something. But as a machinist, when your part is in the machine and it's running, and say you've already deburred the other part and you kind of have this lull or this downtime, even if it's a minute or 2 minutes, it's like you kind of could be doing something. And now I'm guilty of it myself. I've checked my phone or I've gone on the gram or something like that. But that is time that could be used being productive. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know if other people are really like that. Not that I think that it's a bad thing if you're not. But I would be curious. I'd be curious if any of you guys listening are like that in any way. But what else? I feel like so much has happened in this time in between. I'm drawing a blank. So we'll be back to our regular scheduled podcasts. After the finals. Yeah. As for now, this one will be cut short. And until next time, you guys. See ya.